What's up, Rockstars? I have a great video for you guys today. There are a ton of brand new games I'm going to be showing you, some that I'm super excited about. I'll be showing you different kinds of games. I've researched them all, and I'll tell you exactly what I think about each one of them. There's some weird, kind of shady things we're going to be talking about, and a cool upcoming one at the very end. Alright guys, seriously, I have it all. I got solo games, I got Euro games, I got just a ton of stuff. So we're going to dive into it right now, starting with Phantom Epoch. This is kind of a shout out to an indie developer that actually did really great. This came out before, and as you can see, this is a relaunch. However, this time they actually funded, not only that, but well overfunded on their, at least on their goal here. And it looks like a pretty cool game. I think really what's holding this back is the presentation, right? I think it's always a hard thing for a lot of, indie developers. The art is okay, I think. It's certainly serviceable. It's not anything hideous. Though that guy is really like jacked, like hardcore. I don't know. Those are beefy cat people. Anyway, presentation, what I mean by that is something like this. So it says like 40 missions, right? 60 to 80 hours of co-op campaign. And that's great. This is a good, like, little kind of scene here. But then when you come down here, really what you see is just a little bit, and it's kind of in an odd way. Look, for instance, you have the, okay, $70 to get the standard edition, but it doesn't really show, it just shows like the box there. Also, because this is a square, it's like, it looks like a box inside of a box, which is kind of odd. I think it's a cool art piece. I don't know how I feel about it on the actual board game box, if that makes sense. And they do it on both, which again, maybe that's their purpose, but it looks kind of weird to me. It almost makes my eyes think I'm not looking at a box. And it looks like here, you're just getting essentially some minis, is what it looks like this. Because you don't know exactly what's in here and stuff like that. And then they have the one expansion thing here. I've heard my patrons say this is kind of like a Mass Effect kind of thing. I can see the vibe there for sure. But then when it says here, like, hey, $70, here's the standard edition, here's what you get. It doesn't look like a lot, right? There's a lot more to it. It says 2 standard mission books. But it even tells you the thickness of the paper. I appreciate the level of detail that they know exactly what it is they're printing, which means they know closer to how much it's going to cost, which is very good to see, especially from an indie developer. But this isn't a great way to show your $70 gets you this, right? Because you actually have to scroll past this to see the other stuff, right? And then it lists stuff like 2 standard mission books, but like how many missions is that? If you didn't catch that little blurb at the top, there's nothing to tell you here what that is. So that's kind of the issue here. And then the deluxe edition now shows you the upgrades, but only the upgrades. So then if you scroll down here, you actually see, okay, oh, you also get all of this stuff. And it's a lot. Like, it's cool. I dig it. Look at that. Over 600 cards, a ton of different cards, all different styles, doing different things. Super cool. I think that's great. I think it's honestly a solid, kind of like indie attempt here. And I think it's just held back a little bit by the fact that these Star Fox people aren't higher. That's cool. That reminds me of Star Fox a lot. Or like that guy's gonna yell Falcon Punch or something like that. But anyway, yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. Feel free to check it out. It is indie, so know that going into it. That they will kind of, you know, have a few things to get over. But it honestly looks like a pretty cool little system. I definitely dig that. Definitely do. The price, by the way, if you look over here, about $72 for the standard, because this is in Canadian dollaroos. And it says here approximately 70, right? It'll change. So we'll see exactly where it's at when it lands. But still 26 days to go, so plenty of time to grow. Next up is Adventure Party, the role-playing party game. This is a very interesting one. One that I actually almost grabbed. I did grab it, and then I kind of held back. I'll explain that to you as well. It's got 14 days to go, so still 2 weeks to go. What this is it's kind of like reverse D&D almost. So you essentially read the story bit, and then everybody rolls their die, and then they have to kind of explain what they do. They explain what they do, and then everybody has to guess what they rolled. Right? And so it says, right here, right? Stunning success, barely success, just failed, total failure. So it's the GM is the guest master, and everybody kind of goes in turn to do that. So you read the story bit, people roll, and then you have to guess what they rolled. I like that. I think that's a cool idea, a very neat idea. And they offer a lot of stuff. It's $35, to get like all the different cards and stories and dice and, you know, everything you would need kind of to run through this. But I think the real value here is if you are a tabletop player, because then you already have this group that does this kind of D&D style stuff, and I don't, right? That's kind of where I went off on it. But if you do, this is like a nice little trick to do in your next D&D. You could totally just reverse the role like this. I think with some player rules in turn, and honestly, at that point, then you could do it without all the cards and stuff, right? Because you're doing your other D&D stuff. But this just kind of adds to it, if that makes sense. So you get the little boards and stuff like that. So I think it's a neat idea. I just don't think I would get quite as much value out of it as I think a lot of you might. But I like the idea. Very, very cool. Next up is Thiefdom. This probably wins my award for the one I think that looks the neatest. I honestly think this one is pretty darn cool. So this is, actually I think it's explained best down here. Okay, Thiefdom, this is by Man vs. Meeple, is a pick up and deliver game. Okay, so it's normal kind of, take this, move it here. But there's a stealthy twist that keeps players on their toes, and he said that adds a lot more player interaction. And they talk about that a little bit further below, but essentially you're thieves trying to steal stuff and sell it off and stuff on this board while avoiding mostly these guys here getting arrested. But it says here, so hide in the shadows and use the guards to bust your rivals. So you can actually kind of set people up and move things around to where they get seen. So you have all these different light things, but otherwise you're just trying to grab the different stuff and all that. I really like this how to play up here. I notice a lot of these companies do it really well up here. And then the big companies are making all the money typically don't have the how to play anywhere close to the top, right? It's all, look at our minis and look at this box, look at that. So I appreciate game first. Really do appreciate that. Robbing the rich, love it. Let's do that. Smuggle goodies, yeah, that sounds awesome. Get arrested? Maybe not, but other people, sure. So it looks like a lot of fun, actually. You kind of get your different equipment, you're going around and moving around. It's kind of got this, I don't know, what do they call it? Where it's like language abstract. All the game mechanic details are kind of just symbols. That can be kind of hit or miss for me. The art style, stellar. I love the art style. I think it looks really, really cool. Kind of reminds me of, what's that little game where you're trying to survive? Man, I can't even think of the name right now. So like it's like a 2D, it's kind of art style, and you move around and you have to like camp at the night, like pick carrots and get berries and stuff. It's like a 2D game. Maybe you guys can remind me. Let me know in the comments below if you remember, because I can't for the life of remember what this game is, but it's a fun little game. Kind of has similar art style to this. But anyway, it looks like a lot of fun. There's a ton of videos for you guys to check out. A lot of information there so you guys can back confidently. I dig that. This is a fun one. I'll actually be looking at it more here after this video. All right, next up we have Firefly, the game. This is a 10th anniversary collector's box. There's actually some really cool stuff going on here, so I'm going to cover it actually a little bit more detail here. And just know that they already have, over 5,000 backers, 1.3 million raised. This did very well for an IP that hasn't seen anything in a long time, so that's impressive as well. It shows that obviously not only is there just fans of the IP, but that the game itself isn't crap, or it wouldn't have lasted 10 years. That's not how that works, right? So this is actually kind of cool. So if you scroll down through all this, you'll see some of this really collectible stuff that's new, and that's cool to see. But what I really want to show is mainly just the deal you're getting here. If you're into this IP, or if you're into this style of game, know that they are shoving everything at this. For instance, you get over 450 tokens, 15 hand-painted resin ships, you get all the dice and stuff like that, a nice storage solution for everything, which is cool. Every promo card ever made, that is huge. I liked the DC deck building game, I liked their campaign, I liked that I could buy these promos. The fact that they're throwing in all the promos here is awesome, and I wish the Cryptozoic had done that with the DC deck building, because that is huge for a lot of people to know that they got everything. And in fact, even down here, you're going to see out of this big ol' list, every released expansion ever is actually a single bullet point on this. So if you get this collector's edition, you get it all. I mean, all of it. And I think that's awesome. And look at that. It's actually less than $300. It goes to show that as long as you're not huge, like massive mini focused, you can get games out that are actually a little bit more reasonably priced, which is cool. Comes all in one big box, $220. You then have everything in this game, 10 years worth of Firefly game. I think that's awesome, and I can see why so many people are excited about it. Next up, we have this one that's kind of struggling to fund. This is Qing Tian, The Legend of the Immortals Killer. Obviously, beautiful board. This is actually made by Lotus Board Game. If you read about them, they actually own board game stores. And that they're like, hey, we know what sells and what's cool and all that. I think the big thing here is, first of all, the fact that I think it feels like it's obviously more Asian themed. Like, I know it has the Sheridan, like, I think that's Wyoming here, right? But if you look here, the registered user is whoever this is, right? And stuff like that. So, and it says Central Hong Kong here, right? So this is, not exactly local US or Europe based, which I know do fairly well. You have the big staples from Germany and Poland and America and all that kind of stuff, right? But I don't think that's really the issue here. I think what it is just the showing off the gameplay. They are so proud of these amazing looking boards, these pop-up boards that just look really, really good. I mean, these are awesome, and I would love to play on these. And then it kind of eventually now gets to some of the gameplay and what you'd be doing there. But even that's just components, and then they talk about characters. This big old long scroll of backstory lore is, I think, something that needs to happen at the very end, not in the middle. Shows the pop-up map, which I think looks really cool. It shows the different variations. It shows how to play it and how to store it. See how it just falls down like that. The different variations on that. Here's some more finally about actual gameplay mechanics, which again, you had to scroll a lot to see this. Also, these look like gum to me. But anyway, I think they got a solid idea here, a solid concept. I think it's just shown not so well. And I think that's honestly one of the skill sets that's really hard. Look at that, it looks amazing. It's really hard to both be a good game designer, but then also be a good salesman, which is really what you have to do with these campaigns. So I think that's what hurts it more here than anything else. Because otherwise, I think it looks pretty darn neat, and I think it definitely has a lot of interesting things around it. But the question is, like, would you actually back this, right? If you look at the price here, it is $99. That's I think the other problem is it is pretty darn pricey. For what you're getting. Like, I get the pop-up maps and how cool that is and all that, but it doesn't seem like that hefty of a game for $100. My opinion. I think that's perhaps hurting a little bit too. Next up, Bad Baby Lich Lords. And all I can say is in my head, I don't say Lich. I have to force myself to say Bad Baby Lich. Because I think of another word. I don't know if they're doing that on purpose, but I totally don't say Lich Lords. That being said, looks like a lot of fun for just a nice family night, in my opinion. Richard Garfield is actually on here saying that he thinks it's cool. And then Tom Vassell says that if Richard Garfield says it's cool, then it's cool. Which is kind of a weird combo of review thing. But what this is it kind of is like an area. You can think of these as like areas that can spawn these different minions. And these minions essentially are the key to actually getting rid of this area. And to do that, you're using like these cards that have like the boss ability to move them around and interact with them in various ways. The art looks like a lot of fun. I mean, my kids would love this. I think it's really, really cool. I like the stylization of it. The color on it to keep everything organized is, I think, super easy. I think that's a smart idea there. It just looks like a fun, neat, interesting, more unique card game, which I very much appreciate. This is not my attack versus your defense style kind of stuff, and I really kind of dig the kind of puzzly look on that. I also appreciate stuff like shirt add-ons. That's not something I'm going to get, but I like when there are different add-ons to help raise funds that don't increase the scope. It doesn't have to all be gameplay related. It's not buy this other 100 hours worth of stuff and buy this other 2 hours worth of stuff. You want a cool shirt, grab it, right? You want some play mats, grab it, right? Very responsible add-ons there, and I really do dig that. So, yeah, just a neat little campaign here, I feel. Just barely funded so far, so 26 days to go, though. So the price here is at $30, which I think is at kind of the limit, but I think that works. I think $30 for a card game is something I can definitely reasonably do. $55, you can actually get the play mats as well. Overall, I think it looks like a cool deal. Next up, we have Stalker. Again, one of those big ones. Almost at 2 million, almost at 10,000 backers. Huge milestones on both fronts. Definitely doing very, very well. And honestly, I think they've done a good job of advertising it. What I mean by here is a talk here about countless hours in the kind of repeatable mode here. But you'll see it quickly talks about how much hours you get in the core game. Which is, I think, something that's a really big deal. This splash page here showing all this stuff looks good. The only thing I would say about this is while it looks like a lot of stuff, it does make it look a little bit like a table hog with these big maps and this giant map here and then all this layout around the board. It looks like a bit of a beefy game. And I'm not sure that's actually how it needs to be represented. So kind of a pro and con on that sense. But otherwise, they're straight to the point. $95, you get all this stuff, right? I mean, they know exactly what they're doing. All this free on Game Found edition stuff. They show their renders incredibly well. I think a lot of other companies could learn a thing or two when it comes to showing off your minis. You don't have to do what they do. What they do here is they actually add a texture kind of filter on top of everything. Like you'll see that on the side here. You see how all that's textured? And that's not always translating to the mini. Often that's just something they put on the plastic fake digital render that you're seeing here to really pump up the details. But all you're trying to show is this is the design, this is the details. So I think they do good there. And eStar does a well enough job to get most of the details, and they're able to sculpt them in a way with that in mind. So you won't see a lot of people with a huge amount of splayed out fingers and stuff like that. Otherwise, they're showing all this. This is kind of weird that it's blurry. I don't understand why that's still there. That was there in the preview. I don't know if they're doing that on purpose. I don't know what's going on with that, but it's very distracting. And maybe it's a cache issue on my part. I don't know. But they're showing all this kind of stuff. They're showing all this stuff that's coming up, so that's all cool. Overall, I think they just do a good job of showing it. And then, of course, then you get this. Notice you haven't really gotten a whole lot of gameplay, though. You still got to scroll down to get a lot of that. I'm seeing more blurriness here, but I think that's on purpose. I think they're just trying to, obfuscate some stuff, which, I mean, sure, I guess. I don't know. I've always been the kind of person that wants to see everything I'm buying more than anything. Again, another miniature showcase. They know what's going on. And then a whole bunch of reviews. So... yeah, this diorama's super neat, of course, as well. Again, more miniatures, and then just, hey, quality. One thing I wanted to point out is, I guess, actually both of these. So they've been doing this lately, which I really appreciate. They're like, hey, guess what? We make good games. People like our games. Definitely something to say. But towards the top here, they actually had a really cool thing that I wanted to point out. Right here, your pledge is safe with us. Just reassuring you right up front, hey, guys, we will deliver your game. You don't have to worry. And honestly, with Awakened Realms, you certainly don't. If nothing else, they don't have all their eggs in one basket. They have the Game Found now to also help fund them. They have retail presence as well. They're doing quite well as a company, I'm sure. And next up, we have Halloween 2, the game. This one also doing quite well, over 1,000 backers. That's a big milestone for a game like this to get that kind of that order. The only thing I would say is I think it's a little expensive for it. It's about $60, but the Stop the Killer game, they've been doing this a few times now. They'll actually show you, I think, at the kind of the bottom, kind of where they've gone from here. And I've covered their other stuff here. The Silent Night, Deadly Night, My Bloody Valentine, and now Halloween 2. And they'll actually be talking about their next one here soon as well. But this is obviously a IP game for fans of the movie. It's all got a whole bunch of this cool art, which I think is awesome. It's kind of a smaller style game. And you notice your standees here, I think, are really kind of boring. I really like the standee of him more, but these, I think, are kind of weird. I don't know why it says the name so much on there. But you get all these cool little tokens and stuff like that. For somebody that's a fan of the IP, I think they'll appreciate even just that. Or, again, this kind of thematic style that they're doing here. I commented this last time on their last one, I think it was My Bloody Valentine, where they have these famous scenes from the movie and they're really playing it up on that, and I think that's super cool to see. Both the interaction, but also hey, this is what happened, here's how this interacts in the game. So it captures that feel, I think, very well. I think that's super cool. The only thing, again, I would say is I think it feels a little expensive, but it is an IP game, and I think it's almost more of a novelty thing than perhaps something you're going to be playing as your new favorite game ever. Okay, let's talk about Quddiitch. Let's talk about deals that you should probably avoid. I don't know, this is kind of weird. It's just weird. So obviously they do not own the rights to this IP. And in fact, they say right here under Risk and Challenge, they're very honest. Hey, we are not authorized by USAopoly or any other HP affiliates to produce an HP game, Harry Potter. If they think we are treading on their collective capes, they may ask us to stop the campaign. And that's very true. It's weird because it's very cheap, right? They're asking $1, $2, or $4. And it's a print and play. They're not even, this is something that often, if you go to boardgamegeek.com, often on those forums, people will post printable rules to do custom things. There's one for Marvel United and stuff like that, where these people have a passion for the game, want to do this house rule, this version or whatever. Here's what I do, and they'll release it for people to print and play who like it, or they'll even take in orders and just print off something custom. But to actually come to Kickstarter and put it as a Kickstarter where people pay you $1 for your house rules, I don't know, it seems really weird. I guess all I would say is obviously use your best judgment on a lot of stuff. And just be careful who you're giving money to and make sure that they've earned your money well. And I'm not saying that this person has. I'm just saying I don't think this is the right format to do it. I'm all for community-driven game types and modes and alternative ways of playing and all that kind of stuff. It's weird to launch a Kickstarter campaign for it, I feel. All right, next up we have Forest Rush. Beware of what lurks in the forest. Obviously not going to fund. They have 57 days to go. They have a goal of 5,469, and they've only raised 87. Now, granted, 57 days is a long time to go, but they ain't going to raise all that. This is kind of weird because I feel like they don't know what they're wanting to do. So in this one, they have the art here, and they have their minis, and obviously, I think the minis are better than the art, to be honest. I think the art's a little lackluster, personally speaking. The minis actually look pretty cool. I dig that. But it's weird just to see what this even is. 2 to 4 players, 60 minutes, 14-plus-year-old, the typical stuff here. And talks a little bit about, like, high concept. But then you get into, like, some lore about them. You see that there's, like, I guess, quest cards and hero cards. And then it talks about the board game map tiles. So you have heroes, and you have quests, and you have the map. And then what? As far as I can tell, I guess there's no enemies. There's no... I don't know if there's combat. I just don't know what you're doing. I don't know. It's just weird. It's not shown off well at all. And so, yeah, this is it. You get 2 dice, some gems, some tokens. I guess you're going around the map and just trying to do different. I don't know. I don't know what this is. This says like game heroes, and I don't know if they're heroes if there's nothing going on here. They have a lot of 3D print stuff, right? Where you're getting like these custom minis, and they're really big on a lot of that. So all the rest of this is just mini focused. Like, look, they're even printing big versions of them. They're really proud of them. Like, that's cool, I guess. I really struggle to see what it is I'm even buying here. And so for them to ask for $65 for the game when that's what you show as the game, yeah, that's rough. That's really rough. And otherwise, everything else you see ahead of time is just like 3D printed STL files. It's weird. It's weird. I'm not saying they won't deliver. I'm just saying, be careful with your money. All right, next up we have a Kingdom Death Monster update. Just a quick one right here to show that the Game Boy's chest is now complete. Estimated delivery is August 2023. They are actually coming. It's actually shipping. And that being said, I still almost don't believe it till I see it. But I'm hoping to see it soon. Obviously, I'll do an unboxing and kind of show off everything and try and compare the new version of Kingdom Death Monster to stuff like Anthropos Odyssey and whatnot. So expect a lot of content around that. That's super cool. Obviously, it looks very pretty. Only could Kingdom Death Monster apologize for pictures that look this good. They're like, oh, sorry, this isn't our like permanent picture place, but want to take pictures of the box and cards and stuff, when this looks better than most other companies ever show. So definitely quality there. They have a lot more other stuff there. It was a huge update. I'll link down to this and everything in the description below, of course. But suffice it to say, excited to finally get at least that. There's a lot more promise they have to do, though. So we're so many, many years down the line. This is going to be like a 3-decade-long delivery for this campaign. It's ridiculous. Quickly, an STL file that I thought looked cool. This is essentially an entire Warhammer, or I could even see some Star Wars Legion stuff going on here as, some kind of like Geonosis mining facility kind of weird stuff. There's a lot here that you could do, obviously. It is $55. You get all of it. It looks pretty darn cool. Just wanted to show that off. Next up, we also have the Frost 2 coming out. I'm a big fan of Ian Lovecraft's STL files. He does very good work on it. You can see a little bit here in this email, actually, on kind of the buildings that are coming up and stuff like that. It's going to be pretty impressive, I'm sure. And then finally, this is called DreamEscape. This is coming out, and it looks pretty darn neat. It is a solo board game RPG experience. It looks very neat. I love the art and the style, first of all. I do really appreciate that. It talks about 7,000 plus story encounter outcomes and an interactive novel within a card game and stuff like that. The card game's kind of I'll talk about that here. It talks about a key code system, and they've really done a lot of interesting things around that just to kind of make it interesting. They're not just making choices. Though ultimately it does result in read, test, go. This is another thing I'm a huge fan of. I like this in Chronicles of Drunagor. And I think it really enhanced it. And I really like campaigns that do this. I know not everybody does, because if you don't have the expansions, often you might feel like you're left out. But I really like the thing where it's like, this is the story, but you can enhance it with this stuff. I really do dig that. And that's what it looks like all these expansions do, which is pretty cool. So you have your board and your different abilities, and have some tokens and stuff. You have a few cards that do actually do things, as you can see here, right? There's different things there. One thing I'm kind of cautious about is this. It says, similar to Choose Your Path games, DreamEscape replaces a game book with gorgeously illustrated story cards. I like the idea of that conceptually. However, digging through cards is not fun. It's less fun to me than flipping around a game book. So I think it could work. I think there's mechanics that you can include in cards that are harder to do in something like a book, right? Or it's like, read this, go back here and do that. So I don't like flipping through all that. And I think this introduces more possibilities of stuff. But I do worry that's just like okay, now I'm looking for this card and looking through all these cards to find it. That's kind of my only hesitation here. Otherwise, I think it looks like a good solo fun when it comes to exploring a world that has something like this live in it. So anyway, that's it, guys. That's it. That is all that I'm kind of looking at right now. A lot of new stuff for you guys. There's a lot more new stuff that's been announced that I want to do. I'll do a specific video coming up just looking at the future stuff. And I'm really excited to do that for you because there's so many cool things on the horizon. 2023, 2024 are going to be some cool years for board games. And I'm excited to be here along the ride with you guys and kind of worried about my wallet. So anyway, that's it. That's all I had, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Take care. Again, everything's linked down in the description below.